Good morning, ladies. I'm coming to you from the beautiful Alaska this morning. I wanted to share with you something that I've done in my quiet time this morning. It reminded me how good God is. I'm reading John 2 this morning, and it is a parable about when Jesus turns the water to wine. I've never really understood why this was in the Bible until I went to Bible college, and they had explained that this was the first of Jesus's miracles, but also it is significant in terms of Jesus' blood, who the bridegroom saved the best for last, and how Jesus died upon the cross, and the wine represents his blood. But this morning, I want to expand on that a little bit, because I'm not sure about you, but I never understood it for myself. So let's read John 2, verse 1. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, which is, for me, is a bit of an odd response, but there you go. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to his servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he would reveal his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Now, there's a few things about this parable that I want to draw your attention to. The first thing is that Jesus honored his mother. Jesus said to her, "My time has not yet come." And his mother said to him to do whatever he told them. His mother had faith in him, and he honored his mother. That was the first thing that stuck out to me, that Jesus did it anyway when his mother asked, honoring his mother. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us, especially me. I need to remember to honor my mom. She lives very far away from me. I live in Australia. She lives in South Africa, and so it's a long way away, and I need to remember that. The second thing I read that stuck out to me was Jesus used 7 jars that were used for ceremonial washing. It tells us. Now, ceremonial washing is when people come to a banquet, they clean themselves and wash themselves off before they enter the banquet, because they've got the dust and the grime of the day on them. But Jesus said, "Bring them. I'll use them. That's what I have available to me." So Jesus used what he had available to him. Didn't matter if they were ceremonial jars, just the fact that Jesus took them and used them. They were made clean during this miracle. The next thing that stood out to me is that he fills them to the brim, and then tells the servants, "Go and take the water to the master." But the servants might have thought he was absolutely crazy, because I would have. If he tells me to take some water from a dirty jar and take it to the master of the banquet and tell him it's wine, but the servants obeyed. It didn't matter how peculiar the direction was. Jesus' mother said to him, "Do whatever he tells you." Mary had faith in what Jesus was about to do. They had not done yet, but she knew that he would make happen. His servants obeyed in complete ignorance. They had no idea, what Jesus was about to do. But they took the water and they took it to the master of the banquet. And as he drank that water from a dirty jar, he tasted wine, the best wine he had tasted all night. So that's the next thing that stood out to me. The servants didn't know what Jesus was doing, but they obeyed anyway. And when the master tasted it, he said, that's the best wine. And he didn't know where it had come from. But the servants knew. They knew that they drew that water. That's another thing that stuck out to me. The master of the banquet didn't know. But Jesus' servants knew. Well, the servants knew where the good wine had come from. And lastly, the second last one is that the bridegroom was commended for giving the good wine throughout the wedding. He had given the good wine first, but the even better wine second. And lastly, the disciples believed because they saw the sign that Jesus had performed. It built faith in them that this was the Messiah. So let's go back to the first point that I had said stuck out to me. Jesus honoring his mother, that was for me a very real reality in our world today. When we grow up and we live our lives, we need to remember to honor our parents, honor our mother and father. No matter what they've done, we are to honor them. The next thing is that Jesus can use anything. Dirty jars. He used dirty water jars. Jesus can use anything. He can use this dirty jar here, and he can use that dirty jar there. He can use us because his will prevail. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but God's purpose prevails. So God's will prevail. He can use us. As useless as we think we are, he can use us. He used dirty clay jars to give the choicest wine. The servants didn't know where the wine had come from. The servants knew where the wine had come from. The master of the ceremonies didn't. His servants will always know he is good. They will recognize him and what he does. No matter who does not, the servants of God will recognize him. The next thing, the Messiah giving us the best wine, saving it for last. I think that's the most important part of the story, is that this miracle showed Jesus' glory. It says here, what Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. It revealed his glory. This was a foreshadow of what Jesus was going to do. Give us the best wine. The covenant we live under today is the best wine, the choicest wine. And others may not know where the water comes from, where the wine comes from. We know the choicest wine comes from our God. So that's what I learned today, that God is good. He is always good. And he will always be there for you. And if you Ask him. He can use you too. Mary, his mother, had faith in him. His servants believed. They knew the miracle of what it was to know him. You and me. And he saved the choicest wine for today. The new, beautiful covenant we have with our God. Anyway, that's it for me, from Alaska. What a blessing to be here this morning, and so grateful. Take care and look after yourselves. Thanks.